Coming up on Talking Points, more than 40 million Americans began this week without SNAP support. But after a court decision, they will get some benefits back. Hear just how much ahead.
Plus, President Trump sits down for an interview with 60 Minutes for the first time after settling a lawsuit with its parent company, Paramount.
And a new Justice Department ruling gives President Trump free rein on striking down assumed drug boats. All that and more when Talking Points starts right now. Good evening and welcome into Talking Points. I'm Ben Bascuk.
And I'm Ethan Kraut.
As we enter November and the fifth week of the government shutdown, 42 million Americans are waiting for SNAP food assistance to resume. The Trump administration told a federal judge that it will tap billions of dollars in contingency funds to pay for half of SNAP benefits during the shutdown. About 1 in 8 U.S. citizens get around $180 a month per person in SNAP. Nearly 40% of recipients are children under 18. Here in Onondaga County, officials have 30 days to reach an estimated 6,000 people at risk of losing food stamps. Without these benefits being distributed, local pantries are struggling to keep their shelves stocked to support those in need.
Just keeping meats and proteins in our shelves. That's where we're hurting the most right now. Some of our grain items, but certainly just keeping our pantry shelves stocked to be able to meet the needs of the families that are coming in that are very, very scared about what they're going to do.
County Executive Ryan McMahon explained that by the end of November, the county must reach out to each individual by phone to go through a recertification process, and those who cannot be reached will be automatically cut off from SNAP. Under federal law, those who cannot show some exemption will only be eligible for 3 months of food stamps over a 3-year period. SNAP beneficiaries must recertify for the program each year, so it's possible that contact information will be up to date, but it is a tight deadline for everyone to reach.
USDA official Patrick Penn says that getting SNAP benefits into the hands of recipients could face delays, since states will have to rework their systems to provide partial payments. The shutdown is on track to become the longest government shutdown in history, starting tomorrow.
Republican Senator James Lankford is warning that a prolonged shutdown could threaten the health care of federal employees. He expressed concern that agencies are no longer contributing funds managed by OPM and used to pay for government workers' health insurance. Republicans have ramped up conversations about a new expiration date. According to Politico, GOP leaders are eyeing another stopgap bill into early 2026, which would be part of a deal to reopen the government.
While work in D.C. hits a wall, candidates nationwide and here in the Salt City are wrapping up their campaigns ahead of Election Day. Hear their final message to you, the voters, after this quick break.
Yo, camping buddy. Okay, you guys ready?
Dude, I thought you were driving.
I thought you were driving.
Oh, I never said I was driving.
I definitely can't drive.
Okay.
If you're high, just don't drive. It's illegal everywhere. If you feel different, you drive different.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five.
Hi, my name is Sadie Miller.
My name is Luke Brady. I go by St. Luke.
So this one I started with this guitar lick.
Welcome back to Talking Points. We're just one day out from Election Day here in New York State, and Onondaga County is already shattering its record for early voting, bringing in more than 17,000 early ballots. Sunday set the record for the highest single-day turnout since early voting began in the county in 2019. It's an off-year election, meaning many of the seats up for grabs are smaller, more localized races, including the Syracuse mayoral race. You can head to New York State Board of Elections website to find your closest polling location and view sample ballots of races in your district if you're a registered voter. If you're a Syracuse University student, you can cast your ballot at Huntington Hall on Marshall Street or the Goldstein Student Center on South Campus. Polls in New York State open tomorrow at 6 a.m. and close at 9 p.m. Voters in New Jersey, Virginia, California, Colorado, Texas, and of course right here in New York will head to the polls, providing a snapshot of the Trump administration's perception with the public. Talking Points analyst Danielle Blinn has the who, where, and when for races being decided tomorrow. Danielle, what should voters expect when they go to the polls in the morning?
Hey Ben, from right here in central New York to New Jersey and California, campaigns are finishing up nationwide ahead of Election Day tomorrow. And many of them are setting the playing field for gauging national opinions 1 year into President Donald Trump's second term. As the government shutdown hits day 34, citizens are becoming more and more frustrated with the lack of movement in the federal government. Democratic candidates across the country are banking on this to help them win elections. New governors are going to be elected in both Virginia and New Jersey. Abigail Spanberger has a clear lead going into Election Day against current Deputy Governor Winsome Earl-Sears. Spanberger has all the momentum right now after she was recently joined on the campaign trail by former President Barack Obama. New Jersey Representative Mikey Sherrill is facing a challenge from Jack Ciattarelli, who is backed by President Trump. Ciattarelli narrowly lost the race in 2021, but New Jersey has made large strides towards the right in recent years. And Texas has its own special election to decide who will represent one of its largest congressional districts. The 18th district has been without a representative for over a year. And in California, an ongoing battle over redistricting is set to come to a close. It is the only issue on the ballot this year for citizens living in the Golden State. Governor Gavin Newsom, who has teased a run for president, spoke about the vote on the campaign trail recently.
Be honest, why are we all here? We're here because Donald Trump is an historic president. He's an historically unpopular president. We're here because even Trump understands that.
Well, Danielle, welcome to the desk. We were talking earlier about how these elections could really be a precursor for the midterms and 2028. New Jersey last time they elected governor in 2021 was really close. Phil Murphy, the Democrat, won by less than 100,000 votes. And then 2024, Arizona had a smaller gap. Trump won Arizona by less than Kamala Harris won New Jersey, which is really surprising. So how can these elections really set up the future elections?
Yeah, well, I think if you look at the map behind us, you're going to notice a lot of the states that have these stars on them that are having elections in this off year are big states. I mean, you're looking at electoral votes in California, Texas, New York here. They're just states that have a lot of power and a lot of swing. A lot of them are Democratic states, I think, besides the Texas right now, but you're looking at Virginia, New Jersey, like we talked about, kind of have that swing towards more of the right and are leaning more kind of towards the GOP in recent years. And I think that's really important going into these off years, is seeing, okay, how are these governor races going to play out? How is this redistricting battle in California going to play out? And in Texas, the special election, what's going to happen there and what might happen next year when you have all of these midterms, and how do those work out? And then from there, I mean, we have Gavin Newsom saying he is not going to announce an official run for president until after those midterms based on how they go. But I think you're looking at these and figuring out, okay, what are these states kind of planning ahead of the midterms next year?
Yeah, Danielle, the midterms tell us a lot about how the public feels about the administration, about the economy, about a variety of issues. And those endorsements tell us a lot, too. We saw Trump endorse kind of very far-right candidates in some of those more gubernatorial elections last time around. This year, he's endorsing a Democrat in New York City. Let's talk about that race, because there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I think the biggest thing a lot of us have seen is Zohran Mamdani all over our TikToks. He has been out and about this Halloween weekend. He was out at the clubs. He was doing his little thing. He was reacting to an SNL clip he saw recently. So there's a lot going on there. And he had a private phone call with former President Barack Obama, who has not publicly endorsed him, but it seems like he has kind of off to the side. But like you said, Trump recently, I guess, just came out on social media and formally endorsed Cuomo. So I think you're seeing him kind of try to swing things in certain ways, especially in New York City. It's where he's from. He is very passionate about what's going on in the city, and he cares a lot about how that race turns out.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a Trump endorsement. I don't know how much that means. He even said, quote, a bad Democrat over a socialist, right? So I guess it is an endorsement in some ways, but not in some other ways.
Right.
But a lot of other things happening in New York State here locally, too. Kind of give us the background on some of those races.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing we're seeing here, obviously the Syracuse mayoral race, we've talked about it a lot. We've got those 4 candidates. But I think what I've been looking at a lot is these county legislator races. All 17 districts are up for re-election this year. 11 of them are uncontested. That's 7 Republicans and 4 Democrats. We've got 6 contested races. And I think of those 4, what I'm looking at is there are 4 Republican incumbents who are being faced by Democratic challengers. And they're really trying to flip these seats. Right now, the Republicans have a super majority. And with Republican County Executive Ryan McMahon, they're really pushing to kind of flip those seats back towards the Democratic Party. I think District 8, you might see a flip seat there. I think the other one we were looking at is District 4 or District 9. That has 3 candidates in it, could flip actually back towards the Republican side. So there's a lot to look out for. There's a lot of really interesting pieces going on there and definitely a lot of close races that I think we're going to see get called tomorrow.
Yeah, lots happening, especially there in District 9 with those 3 candidates running. Historically, in the north side, more of a Democrat district, but this Republican, a refugee, part of the Syracuse City School Districts, kind of rising in the ranks and gaining a lot of popularity there. A lot can happen in the county legislature. I mean, they approve the budget when it comes to the county executive, McMahon's budget every year annually. That's one of their big jobs. They have all those 6 committees, lots to do in housing and transportation, and lots of laws being enacted by them and that legislation building on that level too.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing also we're going to see, and we've talked about it a lot, but Micron and their kind of development committee there, what's going to happen now that we've been talking about Micron coming for a while, but it's very imminent now, and I think we're going to see the county legislator play a really big part in that. And like you mentioned, this budget, but also with all this new housing that's coming, and there's a big push towards trying to increase the amount of affordable housing in the area, especially on the Democratic side. So I think you're going to see a really big push from some new Democratic legislators if we have them.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Definitely keeping an eye on all those races ahead. Well, the Justice Department is sending federal monitors to polling locations in New Jersey and California. Election monitors are Justice Department employees who sit at polling locations and watch for federal voting right laws violations. The staffers will head to 5 counties in California and 1 county in New Jersey, both Democratic states with important off-year elections.
This has set off some alarm bells as the monitors are being sent after requests from only the state's Republican parties. The 2 states also do not have any elections with any federal component that would invite intervention. It is highly unusual for the Justice Department to monitor polling places for, quote, ballot security, a description the department gave in the press release, as the DOJ typically watches for compliance with Voting Rights Act. In response to these concerns, a member of the Civil Rights Division stated, quote, "We are not there to interfere, we are there to observe, we are there to document."
5 years after his last appearance, President Trump sat down with 60 Minutes for an interview at Mar-a-Lago. The meeting took place just over a year after Trump sued CBS over their interview with opponent Kamala Harris. But their talk this time around covered everything from the economy to the New York City mayoral race. Perhaps the most contentious issue brought up was the president's immigration policy. Here's his response when asked if some ICE raids have gone too far.
No, I think they haven't gone far enough because we've been held back by the judges, by the liberal judges that were put in by Biden and by Obama.
You're okay with those tactics?
Yeah, because you have to get the people out. You know, you have to look at the people. Many of them are murderers. Many of them are people that were thrown out of their countries because they were, criminals.
Interviewer Norah O'Donnell also pressed Trump on his presidential pardons, the most recent of which ended the sentence of disgraced Congressman George Santos. But O'Donnell focused on his pardon of former Binance crypto founder Changpeng Zhao, who was arrested on money laundering charges.
Why did you pardon him?
Okay, are you ready? I don't know who he is. I know he got a 4-month sentence or something like that. And I heard it was a Biden witch hunt. I know nothing about it because I'm too busy doing the other.
But he got a pardon. But he got a pardon.
No, I can only tell you this. My sons are into it. I'm glad they are because it's probably a great industry, crypto. I think it's good. They're running a business. They're not in government.
His appearance comes after a Washington Post ABC News poll found that the majority of Americans say he's gone too far exercising the powers of his office. And while 41% approve of the job he's doing, 59% of Americans disapprove.
Still ahead, relief efforts are underway in the Caribbean following devastation by Hurricane Melissa. What nations are sending aid? After the break.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
Welcome to my house. Lately, not my happy place. Everybody's pretty tired of each other. The parents were not themselves. My little brothers were morphing into small creatures. The walls were closing in. Clearly, a case of too much family, too close, 24/7. And there's a lot of that going around right now. If this sounds like your house, try going someplace new. YourLifeYourVoice.org. You'll find lots of ideas to help you handle the family stresses of being confined to close quarters. YourLifeYourVoice.org. It might not get you out of the house, but it could help you find a little more breathing room.
Welcome back to Talking Points. President Trump took to Truth Social Saturday, threatening the use of U.S. military force in Nigeria. He says Nigerian authorities need to take action against terrorists targeting Christians. He continues by saying if they don't work towards an end, the U.S. will not only end all aid, but will go into the nation, quote, guns a-blazing. Trump then instructed the Department of Defense to prepare for possible action, noting if it happens, it will be fast. He ended by warning the nation's government to move quickly to avoid intervention.
Just moments before meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, President Trump announced he plans to resume U.S. nuclear testing, setting growing arsenals in China and Russia. The United States has not routinely tested nuclear weapons in over 30 years, and engineers have said the move is unnecessary, with computer simulations being accurate enough. The announcement caught some officials off guard, with Vice President J.D. Vance clarifying to reporters that, quote, sometimes you gotta test it to make sure that it's functioning. The U.S. is not the only nation that has abstained from testing recently, and U.S. officials say this new announcement opens the door for other countries to begin testing as well, raising nuclear tensions. There has been no indication on where possible testing would take place.
Well, as Hurricane Melissa hits down in Jamaica, the death toll keeps rising. We bring in Talking Points analyst Boone Gross to break it all down for us. Boone.
Thanks, Ben. The devastation of Hurricane Melissa is almost impossible to fully realize. The death toll passed 60 yesterday, with at least 28 deaths in Jamaica and 31 in Haiti, which wasn't directly hit but experienced severe flooding. The slow-moving storm traveled over a patch of extremely warm water and rapidly intensified into a Cat 5 storm. It made landfall in western Jamaica, weakened in the mountains, and moved on to Cuba, the Bahamas, and Bermuda. Over 125,000 people are displaced in Jamaica alone. The storm is certain to exacerbate the food insecurity crisis in Haiti, where gang violence has destabilized the government. In Cuba, 750,000 people were evacuated to shelters. Now, the death toll is nearly impossible to know for sure. The western parishes of Jamaica, like St. James, St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland, which were most directly hit, were completely cut off from Kingston in the east and have only recently started to see search and rescue teams break into the mountainous terrain. Just before the storm made landfall, Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness spoke with MSNBC on what he expected the extent of the damage to be.
Well, there's no island in the Caribbean, in fact, this entire region, where the infrastructure could withstand a Category 5 hurricane without significant damage. We went through very last year, particularly our electrical grid, our communications network, but our road infrastructure would be severely impacted by a Category 5. In terms of residential infrastructure, without doubt, there will be a number of roofs lost, possibly total loss of housing in the areas that are specifically impacted.
Nearly 3/4 of the island is without power. Roads are destroyed. In some communities, every major civil function is gone. Hospitals, banks, and government buildings are swept away. As aid groups arrive in number into the country, priority one is wading through the devastation to reach the fishing and farming communities in the West who have been left without internet, electricity, food, water, or shelter. At this moment, dozens of communities in the western parishes still have not received help, which almost guarantees that the death toll will increase drastically as the recovery progresses.
Boone, a lot of devastation and destruction, specifically in those western parishes. Can you tell us a little bit about what the scene in those smaller communities looks like on the ground?
Yeah, Ben, I mean, right now, it's these small communities. You know, the people that live in these western parishes, a lot of them, they fish and they farm commercially, but it's for their families. It's these farmers on less than 2 hectares of land. All of their crops are gone. The infrastructure to go fishing, gone. Boats, piers, destroyed. So these people, their whole lives are gone. And the main problem is that the main highway from Kingston into the western parishes is completely blocked along just about every mile. So job number one for these aid groups coming in is to clear that road, get the trucks, get the supplies in, and start to do the jobs that need to be done where these communities are most affected.
Now, Boone, we've seen foreign aid become a hot button issue here in the U.S. So how has the United States responded to this?
Well, right now there have been 3 Chinook helicopters that have flown in aid, but so far it's just been small NGOs, the Red Cross. There hasn't been a lot of effort, really, or any kind of speech given, any kind of broad efforts here from the United States government so far. There is currently there's currently an aircraft carrier group in the Caribbean dealing with the drug boats that Donald Trump has made an effort to curb, but we're not really sure so far what the effort from the federal government will be at this time.
Yeah, Boone, typically even disasters here in the United States, it takes a while for things like insurance companies to catch up, to rebuild, especially when it comes to infrastructure, people's livelihoods, like you mentioned, some of those fishing areas in those western parishes. What's the recovery timeline going to look like, specifically in Jamaica?
Well, it's actually really interesting, Ben. One of the areas that was hardest hit was Montego Bay, and it was a little better because the mountainous terrain, it dissipated the storm before it got to Montego Bay in the north. So right now, the current timeline is about December 15th as tourist season really ramps up. Now, tourist money brings in about 30% of Jamaica's GDP. So that's a very important milestone to get those resort communities open in time. As for the smaller communities, the fishing, the farming communities, that could be anywhere from months to even years. As you heard the Prime Minister say, Hurricane Beryl, that relief process is only just finishing now. So the timeline is very open. Some will be open sooner than others, but for a lot of these communities, it could be years.
Thanks so much, Boone. Definitely going to keep a close eye on the situation in Jamaica. Having been there, I mean, the wealth divide is something that I don't think is talked about enough. You have those resort communities in Montego Bay area, but then up in the hills you have these smaller villages, people living on very mere small fractions of the wealth that you're seeing towards the coast and traveling to those coastal areas for work daily, getting in their uniforms to work service jobs for those vacationers, tourists coming in. But if that's wiped out, those villages are going to be hit specifically harder.
Yeah, we've seen here in the U.S. even in some mountainous or rural areas, like in North Carolina, when they got hit by a hurricane, those areas could really see a lot of devastation being so far away and being really difficult for aid to get into those areas.
Yeah, I mean, even like a situation we saw in California or Hawaii with the fires, it takes a long time for insurance companies to catch up. And then sometimes they drop coverage completely. In Jamaica specifically, it's going to take a long time for their government to catch up. There's lots of talks about corruption and different things there with the wealth divide. So definitely something we're going to keep a close eye on as this hurricane hits down in those western parishes. Well, just ahead, the Trump administration continues its strikes in the Caribbean on drug boats. Hear the new ruling from the Department of Justice when we return.
women are bad with money.
It's what the world's been saying for centuries. But now,
we've got something to say.
Save it. Save the old-fashioned advice, the empty excuses. It's all worthless, unlike us.
To our fellow females, it is time to save ourselves by saving our money.
Contributing to our futures, investing in our independence.
Until we're no longer
80% more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement.
So again, we say to that, save it.
The falsehoods, the feelings of fault, then the funds.
Learn how to save for your retirement at wesaysaveit.org.
Welcome back to Talking Points. A senior Justice Department official is telling Congress that the Trump administration can continue military strikes on alleged drug traffickers without congressional approval. Elliot Geiser, the head of the Department of Justice's Office of Legal Counsel, says the strikes do not meet the definition of hostilities and do not require a declaration of war from Congress. According to Geiser, the U.S. military is not being attacked in response to the strikes, and therefore, America is not at war.
The U.S. military has carried out at least 15 known strikes against alleged drug smuggling vessels since early September, killing a total of 64 people. The latest strike was on Saturday and killed 3 people. Now, the Trump administration notified Congress in early September that it had struck an alleged vessel under the 1973 War Powers Resolution. That starts a 60-day clock after which the administration can either end the use of military force, get an extension, or a war authorization. From some legal experts say that the military strikes violate U.S. and international law. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are criticizing the administration for now being more open details about the legal justifications of the strike.
Yeah, definitely a lot of talks about the legal repercussions of this and if it even is legal to begin with. But the bigger talk going on right now is this a war on drugs, or is this a kind of like regime change campaign being pushed from the U.S.? We already saw the United States government increase the bounty on Nicolas Maduro to $50 million as a reward. And we're seeing kind of President Trump approve CIA intervention internally, start to target kind of like different organizations, internal cocaine facilities and drug trafficking operations within the country itself. So not just like external forces and changing things on the policy side, but actually going in and improving those things to enact change directly.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We've seen many times in past decades the U.S. try going in, maybe some regime change wars that haven't always been easy, but the U.S. is really positioning itself, at least from the outside. It looks like they're preparing for war. They have 8 U.S. warships, a nuclear sub, and more than 4,000 troops gathering in the area, and it's really making you wonder, this is about drugs also, because experts say that drugs, specifically cocaine, comes from Colombia and Mexico, the vast majority, not Venezuela, and it really makes you question what are these motives.
Right, and you said a lot of these drugs come from somewhere like Venezuela, which gives the U.S. an excuse to put a target on these boats, but these 15 strikes have killed 64 people to this point. I think it's hard for the American public to attach a face to a number in these situations because a lot of these are covert operations, which is why we may not be seeing as much kind of public interference and pushback as we have in the past with some of these international divisive choices by the Trump administration.
Yeah, the UN Human Rights Organization is coming in saying that these strikes are violating international law and they have to stop, which is going against what we just talked about with the DOJ, saying that this is legal because this is not acts of war.
Yeah, definitely something to keep a close eye on going forward. Well, that's all the time we have for you on this episode of Talking Points. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CitrusTV News and like us on Facebook. I'm Ben Bascuk.
And I'm Ethan Kraut. Have a great night, Syracuse.